special education educator, child sex abuse prevention educator, author, and founder of the nonprofit Buddy Speaks. Miss Shariea Shoatz. She is the upcoming guest on my episode of Real Reading Talk. Please stay tuned. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Real Reading Talk. I am your most gracious host, Miss Aisha. And with Real Reading Talk, I discuss the real systemic issues that are at the very core, the very foundation as to why we have high levels of illiteracy in the Black community and the ways in which we can combat these issues together, y'all. Oh, yes, indeed. I have a special treat for you guys. Y'all know how I feel about my Black authors, okay? And guess what? I have a phenomenal author. She is a special education educator for over 15 years, y'all. Also, a child sex abuse prevention educator, founder of the nonprofit organization Buddy Speaks. And of course, I came in talking about how she's an author as well. Welcome to the show, Miss Shariea Shoatz. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Oh my goodness. Every time I hear the introduction, I can't believe it myself. Like, is this really me? Am I really doing all of these things? Thank you so much. I appreciate you. It's such an honor to be here with you and to have this conversation and to be able to share my works. Thank you so much.
You are very welcome. I appreciate you again for accepting the invitation. I've been watching you on social media. I really appreciate what you've been doing for our community. It is highly needed. And so I just want to tell you once again, thank you. Thank you for what you're doing. So, what I would love to do is what I always do is when I have my guests on, we always start off with talking about your background, your family upbringing. So, tell everybody where you're from, where you were raised, and give us some background on you and your family.
Okay, so I was born and raised in Philadelphia, West Philly to be exact. And I come from a family of educators. My last name is Schultz, so if you hear it Schultz, more than likely most of us went to Cheney University. We majored in education. And that was something that my grandmother instilled in her children, who instilled in their children for, many, many years. I'm a mother of two. I have a 19-year-old daughter and an 18-year-old son. I currently live in Delaware. I spent years living in UAE, Dubai, as most people call it. I taught overseas. I taught in the Philadelphia prison system. I taught in Delaware. I'm back here in Delaware teaching again. And, you know, I, education has just been a foundation throughout my whole life. We grew up with our family school, the Ida Schultz Memorial Learning Center. We have an LLC called Schultz United for Education. And education is where it's at. I have a passion for education because I love the opportunity that it gives me to be able to connect with our young people, connect with the young minds and watch them grow, not only to just educate them with pedagogy, with arithmetic, math, science, but being able to have an impact on in their lives and provide them with a safe space so that they're able to learn. You need a safe space. They need someone to talk to. Our children come with lots of problems, and a lot of times parents they believe your children don't have any problems because they don't have our problems. They don't have to pay bills. They don't have to pay rent. But our children, they come into the classroom. They come into the building with things on their minds, things on their hearts, and I am here to listen and be a safe space for them before we even open up the books and talk about math, science, social studies, and reading and writing.
Mm, wow, that right there, that was very heartfelt, very needed, and I appreciate you saying all of that. I love
Thank
how you
you.
talked about our kids when they're coming into these schools and how you basically reminded me of a saying. I think I heard that. I think it was from I think I heard it first from Joe Madison. I don't know if you were familiar with him. He had a talk show on Sirius XM. He's actually passed. He passed not too long ago. But he used to say you have to connect before you correct.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Yes, you do. And you can't, if you can connect with the students and you can see them as individuals and not just your student who has to sit in a chair, sit still, do this work, then
Mm,
they'll be able to open up to you and they'll be able to learn and they'll be able to flourish. And they need that. They need us. They're with us so many hours throughout the day, and they're looking for us to pay attention to their body language, pay attention to what they're not saying, pay attention to their nonverbal gestures, pay attention to you know, what they're saying, what they're not saying.
mm.
Children aren't born bad. Children aren't born angry. They have a lot of things going on. And it takes for we as adults to be able to notice, to understand, and to be able to adjust ourselves so that we can help our children.
Yes. Oh wow, that is so beautiful. And I just have to tell you, I really feel super honored, honey, because you talking about you a celebrity. Okay. You start talking you like, yes, all of these different educators and talking, and I've definitely seen the Schultz last name. And it's funny when I see that last name, you come up. Because I'd never, I'm quite sure I probably seen the last name, but never really, I guess, paid attention to it, until like I actually again start following your work. I'm like, oh wow. It's like so now I'm glad that you told me that. And I see that Schultz. More than likely, it's your people, and then just the education piece. Wow. So
Yes.
I want to ask you,
I don't know if you know Sharif Al-Mekki, right?
of course, yes.
That's my cousin.
Come on, y'all. You see, you know what?
Yes. So you see, education,
Yeah.
he's that guy.
Wow. Yes, exactly. Just literally finished his the BMEC convening the
Yes.
Black Male Educating Educators convening, right?
Yes.
Conference they had. Yes. Oh my gosh, man. This and see, I get so giddy when it comes to education, honey. I just absolutely love talking about education, talking about how our people need to be empowered, especially with
Yes.
literacy, right? Because that's the
Yes. Yes.
foundation. Oh, wow. I mean, just absolutely on point. Let me ask you, as a kid, because you are obviously you coming from a family educator. So when you say that, let's take us back to your childhood, okay? So,
Okay.
so both of your parents they were educators, is that
My
or
mother's side of the family, my
oh,
grandmother Gladys I. Schultz,
okay,
she
okay,
started the legacy with my late aunt Ida Schultz
okay.
and all of her children. It started from Gladys Schultz, my grandmother.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. And so now so all of so basically your family, all again, Philly, what I'm saying, born and raised, everybody, and just that whole line of
Yes, my
legacy.
aunt, my mother, my cousins, the majority of my family. It's so funny because like when you get in eighth grade, families start talking about what do you want to graduate? What do you want to do when you go to college?
Uh,
And what you want to major in, but you already know you have to be a teacher. You know what I mean? So it's like you want elementary ed, special ed, or secondary. Which one do you want?
that is so amazing. So did you grow up in a home where, so for example, with like read alouds, like was that something that was
Oh my
common in your
gosh.
home? Okay.
And we grew up with the abacus. I don't know if you ever heard of them, but
Okay. Uh-huh.
yeah, we grew up with the abacus when we were very little.
Okay.
That's how we learned to read through phonics. We had a family school. Sharif talks about that in his interviews. We had a family school, and I didn't even attend public school until I was in the third grade. And then when I attended, I was in the top classes, and I didn't even know what a public school was because we went to the family school. So, that was what my grandmother, she wanted for her children to have a legacy. And all of us, the grandchildren, we went to school at home
Mm,
on 63rd Street. And then we moved into the public sector. So yes,
mm.
reading was a big deal. And I loved to read when I was little. And I still remember back in the day when we used to get the the things for the free pizza. Pizza Hut. Pizza Hut
Oh
was,
yeah, the book.
yes.
Bucket.
Get the
What's it
little
called? Bucket.
coupon when you read a certain
Yes.
amount, so you could take it and get your free
Yep.
personalized pizza. That was one of my fondest memories. So yes, we had read alouds, we had books, we had libraries. Reading was an important part of our lives.
Mm,
Yeah, the
mm.
show's family stress education.
Yes. Oh wow. Well,
And
hey,
for us, it's like no big deal because we're like, yeah, we got to be a teacher. Yeah, the shows, because we're just, because that's what we grew up with and we couldn't appreciate it. But trust me, we appreciate it as adults and we instill it in our children. But our children, they take different avenues.
exactly, exactly. And then I'm glad you brought up the fact as far as our children, because that was going to be my next question, right? Making a segue into as far as you raising your children and, what types of, I guess, like story time, did you have like a designated, bedtime stories for the kids? And, what kind of culture of literacy? I mean, because we already know that's a big part of your family, your legacy.
Right.
What kind of like routines did you establish,
Oh
in
my goodness. So, my children, of course, we always had bedtime stories. We had breakfast stories where while they were eating breakfast, I would play yeah, I was that extra mom. I would play a story.
I
I
love
would
it.
play a story so that they can hear a story while they were eating breakfast. I would have it on cassette. We went to the public library every Tuesday and they had the story time. We went to Smith Playground, they had story time, but it was in Philadelphia. It was like a Jewish library I used to go to in the Jewish community
Mhm,
up near Bala Kenwood, and they had the story time and all of it because I was a stay-at-home mom when they were younger, when they were early years, and I would always go there and they would listen to the stories and being able to connect with other children. We had our bedtime story. My daughter, she used to be such an adamant reader. We would go to the library, like the library was a treat for her. So we would always go to the library when we moved back to America when she was 9, turning 10. And it was just like if I get to go to the library and she would get like 5, 6, 7 books at a time. And
mm,
we couldn't even like we would have to come back to the library so quick because she would run through them.
right.
She absolutely loved to read. My son, he liked the stories online because everyone learns differently. My son, his learning, he has so he liked the stories being read to him. My daughter, she loved to read, and my son loved to listen to the stories. So we always have story time in the car. In the car, they literacy was just always a big deal with me being a teacher, me loving to read
Mm,
and my daughter loving to read, my son loving to hear stories. That's just what we did. We had libraries in our house. And like I said, that was a treat for her to be able to go to the bookstore. We had when we lived in North Carolina, there were bookstore, they had a bookstore there. That was one of the kids' favorite pastimes. And my daughter was reading at the age of 3. She could read at 3. She could read CVC words at 3. I still have the picture of her. I should have put that on my background of her pointing to the CVC words. She knew the sounds and knew how to blend the words when she was 3 when we moved to North Carolina. I tell her that all the time. I said, girl, used to love to read.
wow. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Well, one thing's for certain that you already know as an educator, when they have that foundation, it's not going to leave them. It's there, it's stuck. Even as we know, like you stated earlier, our kids, they got to go
They
through.
love to read TikTok now.
That right, exactly. Exactly. Right. Because we dealing with a whole lot of other type of stuff that we
Yes.
even never didn't even fathom will be a part of our world, right? Social
Right,
media,
right, right.
right? Like it's like, huh? You like we're doing this thing on this phone. It's like, that's not the age we grew up in, right? But again, with that foundation that you put in your children right there, to me, is extremely important. And I'm glad that our listeners are getting to hear this, because this right here is something that they have to understand. Like all we have to do, literally connect, show that we love our, showing that we care, we love, and loving our children is not just them, having the latest this, having
them
all,
things.
yeah,
No, not at all.
no, no. It's literally all the things that you talked about, and they are not ever going to forget that. And I appreciate you tremendously for being that kind of mother. That right there is phenomenal. I
Thank
wanna
you.
So I want to ask you, and going back to the introduction, right? You said that you have been or still in the special education field for over 15 years. Can you tell
Yes.
everybody, what made you decide to go into special education?
Honestly.
Yes. Yes, please. we
Okay.
we can tell
So,
the truth. We got it.
so when it was time to declare my major when I went to Cheney, I called my grandmother on the phone. I said, Grandma, I want to be a fashion designer. I would always go into the department for design and textiles. And my grandmother said, No, you don't want to be a fashion designer. You have to be big time like Gloria Vanderbilt for you to be able to be successful. You want a job where you're off in the summers so you could be with your kids and you have off when it rains and off when it snows. We're educators in our family, Shariea. You have this. So when I was talking to my girlfriend, Kim, and I was like, Kim, I don't want to be a teacher. I don't want to teach 25 kids. They don't listen. And Kim said, Girl, you better go in special ed. You're going to have a classroom with 8 kids and an aide. And I said, All right, Kim, I'm going to do that.
I'm good.
Don't judge me. That's how it started, right? But
Wow.
once I got into special ed,
Yeah.
I loved it. But I loved like severely and profoundly impaired. I
Mm,
loved working with the children on the spectrum. I loved working with the children that had mild disability, mental disability. They changed their name
I
so
know. Yeah.
often.
Yes.
Life skills classes. I was like, these are the kids I love. The ones that, their disability is visible.
Mm,
But we
mm.
also have the children who have 2, 3 grade levels behind, who experience trauma that affect their learning. And those are the ones that I work with now, and I absolutely love it. But initially,
This is
I
your
did
women
it
talk.
because I thought I was getting over it. But once I started it, I absolutely love it. And I am so happy that I have the special ed background because it gives me the ability to have the small group settings, to connect with the children, and I understand them. I understand why he can't read. I understand. I have compassion. I have the patience. So I wouldn't change it for
Mm,
anything.
wow. I lo- look. I'm glad.
I'm thinking about my babies as we're talking. I'm thinking about my JM and yeah and the YC, and I'm just like, yeah. And we're in a classroom, and now the way education is set up, we have
Mhm.
inclusion
Yeah.
where the spec ed teachers, we go into the classroom and we provide modifications and accommodations and for the children, um and they're still like with their regular ed peers
Mm,
80% of the time in a classroom, but we're modifying instruction and we're co-teaching and we're reteaching and so that our babies can understand the lesson. And that's what I do now. And I like to provide an environment where our children don't feel ashamed that they have to come to the back table with me. That they don't have to, now they like, Miss, as soon as I walk in the door from the other class, because I'm split between two classes, Miss
yeah.
Schultz, come help me. Miss Schultz, boy, can I get in the classroom
Oh.
first?
Well, that's a testament to you have made the connection first, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Mm,
And I've always connect with the ones that have the most challenging behaviors.
well,
They always connect with me. Yeah, they become my babies.
I could tell though, and that's
Yeah.
usually how it is because, and I know you know this being an educator, usually those who have the roughest times is because of the fact of the home a life. A lot of times they didn't get that love, that connection, that tender affection that they should have gotten from
Yes.
the home, from mom and
Yes.
from dad. And so when they see, you coming on the scene, with your beautiful spirit, because it emanates through, through the screen. It's like, you have a warm spirit, warm heart. And I could tell, you mean business, but you mean it with love and
Yes.
and support. So I love that. And they
Thank
feed
you.
off of that. They know you're welcome. Definitely. So what I would like to do now is go into you talking about the other part of your profession, which is the child sex abuse prevention educator.
Yes.
And so I would love for you to tell the audience what made you decide to go into that arena.
Okay. So I always like to tell this story. Back in the day, how people say silence is golden.
Hmm.
That's not always true. And they have this statement, what goes on in this house stays in this house. This happens quite often in not just the Black community, but so many other communities. And I was a little girl who I remained silent about something that happened to me when I was less than 10 years of age, between the age of 8 and 10. And I was being sexually abused by my cousin, who was an older teen. And I didn't tell. I didn't know how to tell. I didn't like it. I hated it, but I kept quiet because I didn't know what to do. He was the cool cousin that everyone loved and enjoyed. And then one day, the conversation came up, has anyone touched you? But when the older adult asked that question, they didn't mention the cousins. They mentioned the uncles because they immediately thought about older adults. So initially, I didn't say anything, and then I spoke up. But then it wasn't addressed properly initially. So I remained silent and I learned how to people please. And I became someone that didn't speak out. I didn't have a voice. I looked for ways to protect myself in ways where I kind of like gave up on myself. I people pleased a lot, as I said before. So then I just continued to go through life, and I had a trigger one day. And the trigger that I had, it reminded me of so a trigger can be like a smell or a picture or a video or a sound or anything that reminds you, that brings back a memory of something traumatic that has happened to you. And it feels real. And it feels like it's happening right then and there. And I had a trigger and it reminded me of the abuse that I experienced. And it was devastating. And I was an adult. And from that point, I started getting help. The same exact person that didn't really address it properly when I was a kid, when I became an adult, and I triggered in her home again. She embraced me, she hugged me, and that's when I was provided with the safety to be able to go and get help from Women Organized Against Rape. So that was my first quest. And then I went to UAE and I lived there for 5 years as a teacher. And so many of the children were being sexually abused, little babies. We couldn't even send the boys to the bathroom. I worked in an all boys school and we couldn't even send to the younger kids. I taught first grade. We couldn't send our first graders to the bathroom by themselves because well, what happened? The older kids will be touching them. See, nobody talks about this. They don't talk about older children. That's more powerful. When they think about sexual assault, they only think about men raping girls or men raping women. They don't think about women raping boys or older boys or boys that's the same age but more aggressive, raping other boys or raping girls. So that went on so much. And I remember when I was living there, the first seed that was planted in my head, I had visitors come over to see me from America. And I said, could you bring me some sex abuse prevention books? But I want them to have brown faces. You can mix the books up, but I need one with African American so my children can relate. And the person that bought the book said, I'm so sorry. I could not find one. returned back to America, and in the process of me reacclimating my children and I back into American culture, American life, there was a little boy that was very, very close to me, very dear to me. He disclosed that he was being abused, and him and another little girl, because I started teaching again. And this little boy, he went through so many triggers and episodes, and you know, it just broke my heart. And that motivated me, it encourage me to go ahead and write the book, because I wrote two books actually. I wrote one book called Buddy Speaks, but I didn't publish it yet. I'm going to publish it in 2025. And I said, well, before I publish Buddy Speaks, I need to teach parents about the body safety rules. I need to teach parents how to respond, because children need to know that they have a voice, but parents also need to know these rules. Parents need to know what to look for. Parents need to have conversations with substitute caregivers. We can't depend on our child to protect himself. We can't depend on a 5-year-old to tell a 15-year-old or to tell a 20-year-old or 30-year-old, get away from me. No, stop. And then that person to leave them. Not when they're manipulating the children, not when they're scaring them, not when they're leading with force and abuse. So that's when I decided to write the book, because of all of the incidents that took place. And I wanted to have something, I wanted Buddy to be like an icon for the community, so that children could see themselves in Buddy. That's why I made him a superhero. Buddy, Keisha, and Steve. So I am a survivor of childhood sexual assault. I experienced sexual assault when I was a kid, before I turned 10, and then as a teenager with date rape. And I didn't tell anyone that one either, because I was told, go out to eat, come straight home. And because I didn't come straight home, I was more afraid of the consequences for not coming home than I was, um, more than I wanted to tell. Because we don't talk to our children about, don't worry about what you did. It's not your fault. You just make sure you tell right away, so this person can't hurt someone else, and because this person could be held accountable for what you did. So now I have my voice, and my voice is my power. My voice is my superpower, and I'm saying that to all the children around the world, so that they can stop being silenced, because that's what sexual abusers want us to do. They want us to be quiet. They don't want us to talk about sexual assault. They hate what I'm doing now. Why? Because I'm educating parents. And if I educate a parent, then a parent can empower a child, and a child can know that this person is tricking. A child can know what their private part is. A child can know when someone shows them their private part, that this is wrong, that they can't manipulate them and trick them, that they can't feel bad because someone touched them inappropriately. So that was my motivation, my own life, the life of the children that I taught in UAE, and the life of the little children here in America, who were very, very dear to me, and they experienced the harm. That was a long answer. I'm sorry.
Oh, please, sister, please don't you dare apologize. Every last word that you said, we all needed to hear that.
Thank you.
Everybody who's listening, you are very welcome. We thank you. I mean, you are exemplifying courage and strength, that those who are listening, there's somebody out there who's listening who they have experienced this,
Yeah,
and they're like, they don't know what to do. They're like, they're not, like you said, not getting the support, from, maybe they maybe tried to tell somebody, and the person didn't really, it was almost like, which I know you know this very well, where sometimes, especially working in the field, where you may have a kid who says something, but then immediately sometimes you have an adult who'll try to put the blame on the kid. They're trying, well, what were you doing?
absolutely. Yeah. Or want to punish the child. or an adult that says, "Why didn't you tell me? Why didn't you tell me right away?" Then you make the child shut down.
Yes.
Your response can be either the road to helping your child heal
Yeah.
or the road to your child remaining silent and never ever breaking through again.
Mm, mm,
Our children are suffering. They're in inpatient facilities. They have our children are self harming. Our children are attempting suicide. Our children are using drugs. Our Muslim children are non Muslim children.
mm,
Our children are promiscuous. Our children and adults sometimes are touching other children
mm,
because of what happened to them, and it becomes normal. This is the reality. Our children are confused. Some are confused about their sexuality.
mhm,
I can't say that it's because of the abuse, but
mhm,
sometimes it is.
mhm.
But we know that that's their choice. But
Yes.
this is the reality.
Mm,
Our children are self medicating. Our teenagers are getting high because they don't want to feel, yes, our Muslim children, they don't want to feel the pain anymore.
mm,
Our Muslim adults are getting high.
yeah.
People are selling their bodies. People are addicted to porn
Mm, mm,
and married because of the trauma that they experienced growing up and they never got help. Because unfortunately, sexual predators, sexual abusers,
mm,
people who commit crimes, sex crimes against children,
mm,
they use pornography as a way to normalize the harm that they're causing the children,
mm.
to introduce it to the child. See, look, everybody's doing it. And so the child, it's disgusting and it's gross initially, but
Yes.
then it becomes they want to desensitize them.
Yeah.
So it's all about manipulation, power, and control.
Mm,
And these things happen to our children. And then they don't get the help. And then they become the adults who are addicted to this pornography. And then you're married and you're bringing this into your bedroom. And then you can't be stimulated by your wife.
mm.
This is real talk.
Real talk.
Because when you were a kid, someone raped you and made you look at this. And now the only way that you're able to enjoy your wife is if you watching this before you're with her. And we could say, oh, it's haram, you're supposed to fear Allah and all that stuff. Yes, but the reality is there's someone who has been carrying this ugly, ugly crime on their back, on their shoulders since they were babies. Because 1 in 4 girls and 1 in 6 boys experience some form of sexual assault before they're 18 years of age.
Oh,
And these are only the ones who speak about it. So let's look at it this way: 10 kids on a bus
yeah.
going to school.
Hmm.
2 of those 10 kids experience sexual assault before they're 18. Like I said, those are only the ones who disclose. There's so many more. We have to use our voices to speak up, but we can't speak up if we're not educated. You say speak up, but how? How am I going to speak up? What am I going to say? I'm uncomfortable with it myself. You have to be uncomfortable enough just for a moment so your child doesn't spend their childhood recovering from their childhood.
Mm.
That's the reality.
Ooh. Oh,
Mhm.
this. Oh my goodness. I'm just again. I can't thank you enough
You're
because
welcome.
the power that you are bringing to our babies is absolutely what we need. This is imperative.
It's imperative. One of the ways I empower my students is, and any child that I come in contact with, I'm not gonna make you hug me. I don't care who you are.
Mm,
I don't care if you're my child. I
mhm,
am going to ask permission. Unless a child runs up to me and hug me, Miss Charles, Miss Charles, Sister Shariea, Sister Shariea. I'm hugging you all day long.
right.
But if I see you and I'll say, "Can I hug you?" And they'll say no. And I'll say, okay. Or they'll say yes, or they'll look like they want to say no, but they're uncomfortable. I say, listen, it's okay for you to say no. It's your body. You're in charge. We have to do that, adults, because we have to let a child know that they're in charge of their own body. Because if we don't show them that and teach them that, and someone comes and try to harm them, they'll never feel like that they're in charge of their bodies,
Mm,
that they have the right to say no, especially for the Muslims. We go in the masjid, you have to kiss Qala, you have to kiss Amma, astaghfirullah, shake his hand.
right.
This child could be scared to death. This child could be triggering for days. This person could be harming our child. Or this child may just not even want to. When we moved back from Dubai, my kids hated hugging people.
Mm,
And everybody got mad. They hated it. Their skin cringed. And
mm,
people would get upset. And I would have to tell them, listen, my kids don't want to hug. And they would be mad. I'm like, listen, it's your responsibility as the adult to be able to understand and respect it. You don't know why they don't want to hug. Don't force kids to hug, even if it's your child.
mm.
Don't put kids on your lap. Let children know that they are empowered. I teach a workshop for children, and that's one of the things I asked them. I teach the body safety rules, and they said they absolutely hate when people force them to hug.
Mm.
These are from the children's mouths.
And that right there, I am so glad that you brought that up, especially now we're in the season of family gatherings, right? We got the family dinners, you got folks who, they observing, whether it's Thanksgiving or you have people who are, all the different, Christmas or whatever holidays, Kwanzaa, and you have a lot of people getting together, a lot of families and family friends. And that's why I wanted to talk to you about this book, because of the fact I said this is right on time. I'm like, because
Yes.
how many times have kids by parents go ahead, that's your auntie Sally, that's your uncle, Barry, it's all right. And then your child is looking sheepish and looking scared and looking like,
Right.
"Oh, okay, I understand, but I don't want to." But here it is. We're trying to push them because, well, again, like you said, it's the whole aspect of, I think what it is, I'm wondering if it's a thing where they feel like, okay, I don't want to make the adult be insulted. Is that what
Yes.
it is? you know and so it's like this whole, well, I need to push you, to this adult, and so they can feel comfortable, so that adult don't feel like, man, why they don't like me, you know what I'm saying? And like you saying, you're saying it, you know what I'm saying, and real talk, you know what I'm saying, plainly, like, listen, our kids need to show that they have a voice. This is their body,
Yes. Yes.
and they
And
shouldn't have to be funny. Yes,
they
please.
shouldn't. And
Hmm.
parents need to respect it. It is our job and our responsibility. And let me just circle back about what you said about Thanksgiving, family holidays.
Hmm.
A lot of times, what we do is we leave the children in a room with the
Mm,
children,
come on,
and we go and we be with the adults.
say it.
People have been sexually abused, sexually assaulted during Thanksgiving, during Christmas, during Eid. Do not leave children unoccupied. Do not leave children with older teens. Do not leave situations where someone can be one on one with your child.
Mm,
You have to, if you got to take shifts, take shifts. All right, I'm going to sit with the kids for this hour. You sit with the kids for the next hour. You
mm,
sit with the kids for the following hour.
like that.
Have those kids in plain sight.
Mm,
Why? Because it only takes a second for someone to do something to a child, make the child touch their private part. They touch the child private part. They flash their private part. They rub the child's breast, buttocks, penis, testicle, whatever the case may be. Don't leave the children alone. Do
mm.
not. Whether it's family or not. Don't send the kids in a room by themselves without any supervision if you want to protect your children.
I love it. I love what you are doing, because see, what you're doing is you are telling us, especially in the Black community, to break this generational trauma that we're
Yes.
accustomed to having, because again, we've normalized a lot of this toxicity, the whole aspect of having the kids. Now y'all go in there. You know what I'm saying? Let us
Right.
be, let us do what we do. Y'all get out, the whole get out of our face. Y'all go do your
Mm-hmm.
thing, whatever. And then, like you said, And especially too, you having them away and then you're not even checking on them.
Right.
But like you said, I like what you're saying is, hey, no, we gonna take shifts as adults. We're not gonna leave
Mhm.
y'all unattended, period. Ain't no, well, y'all, we'll come.
And no closed doors.
No closed door. I love that.
No closed
No
doors.
closed doors. Ooh. Oh
Mhm.
wow. This conversation, y'all, oh my goodness. Again, I really, really appreciate you, number one, for even having that courage to share, your story. You are helping people in our communities. And especially, too, I think about even with our boys, because you know this, that a lot of times with the boys, they'll be getting in touch, especially even if they're getting touched by somebody, an older, say it's an older girl, right? A lot of
Right.
times it's kind of like, oh man, don't, in a sense, it seemed like it may be kind of encouraged a little bit because of the,
Yeah.
well, that's showing, you doing your thing, you know what I'm saying?
Right. You
You know,
got your
you got
manhood.
your manhood, right? You got the older girls looking at you.
Right.
But again, like how you're talking about is no, that ish ain't right either. It ain't about that. You know,
Not at all.
mm, mm. Well, I definitely, I want to say again, thank you. And I want you to also, if you would please leave us with three ways that that people can be able to develop a culture of literacy in their families. I mean, I already wrote down the breakfast stories, that right there, because we're so
Yeah.
used to the bedtime stories, but you flipped it and said, no, we're going to have the breakfast stories. So you
Yes.
can, that could be one of the three right there. Cause I think, with that one, that's not something that we typically hear. We usually hear in the bedtime, but that breakfast story one is really, really beautiful. Can you give
Thank
like
you.
maybe you're welcome, a couple of other ways that families could start to incorporate that literacy in their homes?
Everyday real life literacy. With cooking, teaching your children how to read, read menus. Even with read menus, read everywhere in the house, in the kitchen. Have a specific time where we unplug.
Mm,
We used to do that too. We would unplug and
mm,
we would read. We would read, at least 1 hour a day, 45 minutes a day. Allow your children to see you read and not read in your phone, but to read a book and build libraries.
mm, mm.
Build libraries.
I love it. I love it. Basically,
Have incentives. Have incentives like the schools has
yeah.
you can create a little chart within your family. And for each time they read a book, give the children an incentive so that the only incentive doesn't come just from school, but it comes from home too. And make it fun. Make
Mm.
it fun.
Mm, that is beautiful. And I'm glad. I thank you for saying the incentives piece because I know you have some people who they may feel like, well, they need to be reading. So why we got to incentivize something that they should be doing anyway? But I like how you put it. It's like, hey, when we have the incentives, that right there is showing them that this number one, this is something we're valuing reading. And then also
Right.
the way to get those kids who struggle with reading, they don't want
Yes.
to, you know?
Right.
So,
And let them hear stories.
mhm, yep,
Audible has books for the teenagers, books for adults. We have books online that can read to the children.
yeah, yeah, that's right, that's right. One of my favorites that the kids love is the Storyline Online.
Oh my gosh, oh my
Right,
goodness.
right,
That's
right.
I teach summer school too, and every morning I did some storyline online while my students ate breakfast. And
Okay,
then before we did circle time, and they absolutely loved it. They love it. That
that
was one of my favorite.
well, I'm gonna tell you, I'm gonna add one more to the list, and that is my YouTube channel, Reading is Freedom. And I have a plethora of read aloud.
Mhm.
Yes, yes. I read
Yes.
stories, my kids are reading stories. So, and again, like how you talked about earlier, the representation, having a lot of books that represents our people, that's what you'll get with on my channel as well. So I
Nice.
yes, yes. So once again, Sister Shariea, we really, really appreciate you. With your book, can you tell everybody, number one, where to get the book? Tell everybody the title, and also where they can get the book as well.
The title of the book is My Voice is My Superpower. If you go to www.buddyspeaks.org, you can order the book there. We're on Amazon too, but it's better to order the books from the author because then I can give you signed copies. Sometimes I throw on a bookmark, sometimes I throw on a coloring page, and whatever the case may be. But you can get it there, or if you follow me on social media, Shariea_Shoatz, SHARIEA_SHOATZ. You can inbox me. I can ship the books out to you. You can also find Buddy Speaks. The link is in the bio. And please follow me. I'm author Shariea Shoatz.
Nice. Thank you. Thank you so much. Well, I appreciate you once again for being here and talking to everybody about your educational journey, and then also sharing your story and how it led you to being able to write this phenomenal book. And also, real quick before we end, I would love for you to share with everybody about how we can support the nonprofit organization that you started, Buddy Speaks.
Yes, you can support us several ways. You can go on our website. We have a donation button. You can purchase books, and you can purchase books so that we can give them out because I have a tabling event on December the 14th, and we like to have sponsors so that if you purchase a book, when the children come to the table, I'm able to give the books out for free. So donations are welcome. We have workshops. I'm going to, because of the incident that took place in the Muslim community, I'm planning an in-person workshop in Delaware. We can You can help sponsor a workshop. You can say, okay, I'll give you a donation toward the food. I'll give you a donation for the children's workshops that we're having. We also feed the homeless. We do a lot of community outreach. We give out coats. We do a lot of work, not just sexual abuse prevention, but that's our mission to provide education and awareness to help prevent and end childhood sexual assault. And we support survivors and their families.
Love it. I love it. Well, we appreciate you once again. Your work is needed. And make sure, just like our ancestor Harriet Tubman said, keep on going, period. Don't ever stop.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
And this helps me because you saying keep on going. It helps me to keep on going because sometimes it can be a little difficult, because it is my reality. So by you asking, please come on and talk and share, it
Yeah.
helps me to break down my barriers that may stop me sometimes.
Mm, mm,
Because, the babies in my school alone, I had a student that got into a fight with another student, and he said, yeah, because he was rubbing on my private part. So what was I supposed to do? Yeah. Fourth, and these are fourth graders.
come on. Just-
And it's like, why was he doing that? This is a red flag behavior. This isn't normal.
No,
This isn't curiosity.
no.
This is acting out because of something you've either experienced. I'm not even going to say it's something that you watched. Because children don't know how to spell porn. So they not just going typing in porn. It's not a sight word. It's not a CVC word. It's
Mm,
not a most common word that people use.
mm,
So if a child is watching porn at that tender young age, 9 times out of 10, they were introduced to it. Stop penalizing these babies and give them a safe space so that they can tell you what's going on and that they're in trouble.
mm,
It's our job as a parent to be uncomfortable, to have these conversations so we can protect our children. Don't leave it on the child because it's not their responsibility. It is our responsibility. It's twofold. It's the parents who need to become educated and empowering the children so that if it happens, they won't remain silent for life.
mm, mm, mm. Wow. Well, I thank you once again for
I
reminding our
thank you.
yes that their voice is their superpower. We appreciate you tremendously. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yes. Well, you guys, you all heard it um, right here. This episode. This is the kind of episode, number one, you need to make sure that you have your notebooks and pens so you can take notes because Sister Shariea, she was giving some valuable gems that we definitely need to inculcate into our families ASAP. Some of you are listening, y'all already are aware, you know a lot of these things, you're doing these things, that's great. But as the old saying goes, sharing is caring. Okay, so make sure you're sharing this information. You already know it, that's fine. We'll share it because there are people out there who don't know, or there are people out there who are intimidated, they're afraid. Okay, so right here, this was the empowerment zone right here. All right, so once again, this has been another episode of Real Reading Talk. I'm your most gracious host, Miss Sasha. And remember to please keep reading for at least 30 minutes a day. And remember, reading is freedom. Everybody take
Yes.
care. Peace. Well, once again, you guys, I do my best to make sure that when I have folks on here, they are going to bring much value. They're going to be dropping gems because our community needs that. You know, this is the episode that you are definitely going to have to listen to again and share it with others because, as you all heard, there was a lot of important, sensitive things that was needed to be said in order for us to make sure that we are breaking these generational curses that have been a part of our Black communities for many, many, many years. So once again, to do some housekeeping, I wanted you all to remember that if you're looking for a pre-K through fourth grade reading tutor, please make sure that you go to my website, abclearntutoring.com. Click on that free reading assessment to get your baby signed up to get the help that they need. And I'm also the founder and executive director of ABC Read. Our nonprofit organization has been helping our communities here in Cleveland for 10 plus years, y'all. Okay. Our mission, our goal is to give out 10,000 books by the end of this year. And you all can help us make that happen. Just go and donate. Go to our website, abcread.org. And then if you would love to donate books that are new or gently used, then you can also reach out to us as well through our website. Make sure that you subscribe to my YouTube channel, y'all. Reading is freedom. This episode is going to be uploaded to there. Make sure you subscribe, like, comment, hit the notification bell, all of that great stuff, right? And of course, you know, I got to talk about the merch, right? Reading is freedom. Got the shirt, you know, I represent when I'm doing my podcast. You know what I'm saying? Got the mug. It's that time of year to make sure that you are promoting that reading and looking stylish while you're doing it, okay? And then also the book that I've been reading, I actually have went back into reading the book, The Black Jacobins, which is by C.L.R. James. That book you need to check out. All right, so I've been reading that book. And I'm just going to leave you all with the quote from the main character of Buddy from the book, My Voice is My Superpower. And the quote is just that. My voice is my superpower. All right. So that right there, that's how we ending on our Real Reading Talk. Okay. So again, I thank you all for listening. My name is Miss Sasha. Again, Real Reading Talk is the podcast in which we discuss the real systemic issues at the very core, the very foundation as to why we have high levels of illiteracy in our Black communities and the ways in which we can combat these issues together. Thank you all again for listening. And remember to please keep reading for at least 30 minutes a day. Take care. Peace.